What's up, everybody? It's Alex with Squeaky's Reef here again. Figure it's finally time to do the 1 year tank review. I think my cycle finished right about in February, and the first corals went in the end of April, but it was still a good time to do a review. I slacked on the videos recently, and I waited a little bit to put this one out because there was just so much changing in my tank that I wanted to wait till I got everything stabilized and happy before I put out this video. First of all, there's been a couple equipment things that I didn't go over in the last video. If you get these magnet locks on your cabinet, make sure you get the ones that screw in, because the ones that just go on with tape, my 4-year-old daughter ripped off without even trying. She just opened it too hard and it came off. But if you get these ones with screws, you know, it'll work and nobody's getting in there no matter how hard they pull. And I just mount these little magnets on the top of my aquarium here so I can always just pull them off and open the doors pretty easily. I also got this cabinet that hides a 10-gallon aquarium for my auto top-off reservoir, so I don't have an ugly bucket next to the tank. And when the doors are closed, you can't even see it, which is great. And the other thing is the heater. I'm using this titanium heater, and it's been working for over a year. I set, instead of keeping it 1 degree difference, I set it as like a 4 degree difference. And this way the thermometer should turn on and off less often, and I'm hoping I can extend the life of it by a little bit. Also, since I wasn't having any luck with the Kato in my refugium, I just decided to make this like a little frag area. So I got a little par light from Amazon, and I'm just keeping, so I fragged off my gorgonians and a couple mushrooms, and I'm keeping them down there, and I lined the floor with rubble rock, so I'm hoping that as they reproduce, I'll be able to just pull some off and, trade them at frag swaps, what have you, and it'll work that way. Now, it seems like I've had the worst luck with the fish I've bought. I bought a lot of fish that were, reef safe with caution, where you run the 50-50 risk of having problems, and every single time I lost. I had a 6-line wrasse who killed my 2 anthias and I had to get rid of him. This blue spot Toby puffer, which I really liked, just annihilated my corals. I had a coral beauty angelfish, which I had to get rid of. And so it felt like every time I got one of these 50-50 fish, I just lost. The other thing is, despite every caution I took, including quarantining all of my fish, somehow ick still ended up in my display tank. Now, it could have come in on any snail or any piece of coral. It just really upset me, and looking back on this again, I'm not sure if I would quarantine everything the same way, but my powder blue tang was getting stressed out and came down with a really bad case of ick, so I pulled him out and re-quarantined him. There were some other fish in the tank who had a little bit of ick, but for right now, I just treated the powder blue. Everybody else in the tank looks okay, and I'm hoping that that'll be the end of it and I won't have to go fallow. The problem is that the powder blue is being bullied by the yellow eye coal tang, and you see him here at night, he's got nowhere to sleep. And I think he's just getting so stressed out that his immune system was compromised and he came down with a really bad case. So far so good since adding him. I've definitely still seen a bit of aggression, but I put a mirror up on the side to try and minimize that for a couple days, and it seemed to work. So far so good, but there is a chance I'll have to pull everybody out of here and go fallow despite. So at some point I noticed that my stony corals weren't doing quite as well as, my soft corals were. Some of them were just slowly dying. So I sent off for an ICP test, and I found out that I did have some elevated levels of heavy metals in my tank, which I thought at the time was probably the problem. And it suggested that it was probably coming from overdosed trace elements. I think it was that ESVB plus that I was dosing that I didn't really need. So I stopped dosing it and ran some media to try to get all those metals out of there. But in the end, I don't think that's what the problem was. The problem was that my refractometer, as I hadn't been recalibrating it or even really cleaning it properly, so it was slowly skewing lower and lower. And by the time I finally suspected this and I went and checked the tank, the salinity was at 1.017, which is like way, way, way low. And I think that's the reason that I was having a hard time keeping stony corals. So I just started adding a little bit of salt water into the auto top off to bring it back up to where it's supposed to be. And now that it is back up to where it's supposed to be, everything seems fine, and I went ahead and ordered some new corals. They did a Top Shelf's Aquatic live sale on Reef to Reef, and I went a little bit crazy, and I bought a bunch of new corals, but I just really wanted to get a bunch of stuff in the tank so that at the end of the year, you know, I'll have a bunch of big colonies instead of always having a bunch of little midget corals. And when you do those live sales, I got some really good deals, and couldn't be happier with the order I got from Top Shelf Aquatics. And since I fixed that, everything in my tank has been looking really good, including these new corals I picked up. I also started dosing the Brightwell amino acids, and they seem to really like that. But even like the Acropora here seems to be doing fine. All of my Montiporas are doing fine. And it really makes me feel like things are leveled off here. I am getting another ice cap gyro pump for the other side. They make the new 4K controllers backwards compatible, so I'll be able to run both the one I have and the new one on a same sort of control pattern and be able to do like wave crests and reef modes and stuff. And I think it's nice that Ice Cap made that backwards compatible controller. So that's in the mail. It should be here in a couple days, and hopefully the tank responds pretty well to it. Now, a lot of these soft corals that I've had in the tank for like 8 months have shown huge growth. That leatherwood is a good example of one of them. One frustration I've had is that these clownfish, who I love and I think they're some of the prettiest fish in the tank, just host on the back of this overflow box, and I cannot get them to live in the anemone. And I tried printing out a bunch of pictures of clownfish living in anemones and putting them on the side where they host, which in retrospect seems really dumb. But at the time I thought it might work. But I had those pictures up there for like a week or 10 days, and you know, they looked at them, but it didn't do anything. So I'm just going to be patient and hope for the best, and I have something in the works for that anyway. Now, this little guy on the left here, I don't think I spent quite as much time as I should acclimating him, so there's a little bit of a white spot on top from bleaching, but I think it'll be alright. He just needs to get used to the light. And this encrusting money cap in front has really taken off now that I got everything right, and it's just growing like crazy. And the chalice I have to the right of that, up under the darkness a little bit, is also doing very well and growing quickly. I'm hoping that this pink branching Cyphastria will be able to add a little bit of life to like the entrance to this cave here. It says it likes really low light, so I'm hoping it'll work out there. And I got 2 of these flower pot corals too. They seem happy enough. Everyone says they're really hard to take care of, but both of the ones I have down here so far seem like they're doing really well, and I can see new heads growing underneath, which everybody says is a good sign that you've got a healthy one and it stands a chance of living, which is good because I love them. I noticed a little sponge growing in between my zoanthid heads that seems to be irritating them on this colony, so I got to get that sponge out of there with some forceps. I'll probably work on that tomorrow. And then these dragon eye zoanthids are loving this spot down here too, and I decided to put my favorite Cyphastria that I got during the live auction sale too there. I'm hoping it'll cover everything pretty well. It's the something beach Cyphastria. I'm trying to isolate my Galaxias on this rock because of the sweepers, but both of these Galaxias are really hardy and doing well. I love this green one I got around the same time as the anemone, and it's just probably tripled in size. And I got this blue one from the live sale the other day. I think when they cover that rock, they're going to look really awesome. Now, my anemone, for whatever reason, decided to take a little bit of a walk. He walked maybe like 4 inches to the right there inside of that crack, which is where I wanted him initially, which is fine. I'm hoping maybe the clowns will see him a little better now and head over there. Duncan's probably got about 8 new heads on it. It's looking really good. I feed it regularly. And then that's the Man on the Moon Lepto, I think, in front of that I got from the live sale. And I'm hoping that now that this anemone is a little bit further back, maybe the clowns will give it a second look and go stop in there. All of the zoas are looking really good too. You know, most of these I bought with like 1 or 2 polyps, and have many more than that. Even the ones that the puffer munched on completely. That Gorgonian was getting so big I had to frag it back right before I shot this video because it kept bouncing into that torch and getting burned. So I cut off like 3 decent sized frags of that, and I'm keeping them in the back. But you can see that most of those zoanthids are really taking off there. The daisy cutters on the right. The ones on the left there I thought were completely decimated by the puffer, but they came back. And all the ones in the back are growing, 5, 6 polyps now. This is the Captain America pallies, I think. Put them on their own rock up front. And the Xenia, which I got literally as a hitchhiker on a hermit crab, is now, bigger than a grapefruit. I'm sure nobody will be surprised to hear that. It grows like weeds, but it does shoot out these little floaters sometimes, which is another reason I set up the area down below, so I can catch them, put them on a rock, and then bring them to a frag swap. I added another piece of rock over here on this side, and then a piece of plating Monty behind it, just to give a little bit more of like caves and swim through areas to fish. I'm thinking maybe that might help minimize the aggression a little bit. And this is one of the guys that was really bleached out when my salinity was low, but he's coming back together now and the colors are really starting to brighten up. It doesn't take that long for things to turn around. And then down below I'm keeping all my Recordias. This one is huge, but it just will not seem to split or put out any babies. And then the orange one I got at the live sale, it's got 2 mouths, so I'm assuming it'll split soon. And then I got a little green one down there too. And then I got a couple different types of frog spawn now and a hammer. I really want to fill that area out with Euphilia, but it'll be a while before I can buy new corals. This is like an orange watermelon Sammy, P-S-A-M-M-Y, I think. And seems to be doing fine. I have a piece of bird's nest tucked in there. That's the Jedi Mind Tricks Montipour, which also was completely decimated, but is really covered well. And then I have some other sort of encrusting Monty I'm trying to get to grow up the side here. I forget what it's called, Mystic Monty maybe. All the names are ridiculous. Now this yellow watchman goby is still doing fine, but frustratingly, he still has not met up with his pistol shrimp. He set up his little lair here and defends it aggressively, but the pistol shrimp is in the middle of the tank and they've just never found each other. I still love this fish, but I just wish that, I could, have that symbiotic relationship in the tank, but it's starting to look like it probably won't happen for me. This is my rock with the more invasive mushrooms. There were many more of those green and orange Recordias, but I put some below. And that red kind is really taken over now that it's got a hold. That Cyphastria right there dropped upside down on top of it and got stung so bad by the mushroom I'm not even sure it'll survive. And that Favia there is doing really well. It's encrusting down onto the rock. The colors look really great. And I'm hoping that Cyphastria will survive. It's that urchin right there who just runs around knocking things off, and it's getting to the point where I'm upset and I might not even keep him. And I have another leather down here, and then this is the Jingle Bells Cyphastria that I got from the live sale. Again, I'm trying to get this to encrust up the rock there. I think that would look really cool. I did also get a spotted mandarin goby, Mando. Seems fat and happy, seems to be getting enough copepods. I bought another copepod replacement to put in the sump too, just to make sure, but for now he seems like he's doing good and nobody bothers him at all. Another change I made with the addition of all this SPS was to get rid of the jets on the end of my return nozzles and add these random flow generators. I'm not sure how much that's really going to do for me, but I have that extra gyre in the mail anyway, so figured any little thing will help. This is a Dispar, or no, I think it's some sort of Anthea that I got. I got him through quarantine, and he's happy. You see Cloud being a jerk there, but I'm glad to have a couple redfish in the tank. I got this and a ruby-headed fairy wrasse. I do definitely still have some fish aggression in this tank, starting with this guy. This yellow-eyed Coltang is the biggest jerk of the tank. And then he sort of picks on Cloud the powder blue, who sort of picks on Mel, that striped Melanaris wrasse. And it sort of rolls downhill from there. But the yellow-eyed Coltang, I was under the impression was one of the least aggressive tangs you could get. But in my tank, he is a jerk, man. And I think it's entirely because he would chase the powder blue around that the powder blue got ick. I've never seen any nipped fins or anything, but just lots and lots of chasing and defensive posturing. But I guess that's to be expected. This is the ruby-headed fairy wrasse I got, who's very camera shy, but when he's out in the light, he's very pretty fish.
Yeah, your neighbor came back to save
So at this point, I'm done with this tank for a bit. I have, basically all the coral in here I want. Eventually, if the acros do nice, I'll, get a few more nice sticks in here. But for at least the time being, I'm very happy with my coral stock. I'm happy with my fish stock. I want to let things settle and make sure I'm not going to have another ick outbreak and have to pull every single fish out of the tank and go fallow for 72 days or something like that. I'm just really at a place now, a year later, where I'm happy with everything about this tank, and I'm ready to just chill and let it grow out for a little bit. And if problems arise, I'll come to them, but with the dosers and having the salinity fixed, everything is super stable right now, and I think that if I just keep my damn hands out of the tank for 6 months, I'll have some really good growth all around. I wish y'all could really see how it looks under the blues, but the best I can do is putting them through this yellow filter. I'll get a better filter for my phone eventually, but when just the blue lights are on, the fluorescence in this tank is amazing, and everything just really pops. It just really isn't captured, through the yellow lens here, but I'm doing my best. Now, one of the main reasons I'm done in this tank is because I have a new project to work on. I'm so frustrated by not having those clownfish live in an anemone that I'm building a clown harem. I went and bought a 60-gallon cube, working on the aquascape right now. I basically have all the equipment I need, so I'm cycling it right now. And I'll give you some updates on this one, when I'm ready and I have everything set up. I'm still doing some work to it, but eventually there's a 60-gallon clown harem in the works here. I'm just getting all the rock epoxied together. Excuse the shoe and hammer. You gotta do what you gotta do. But I feel like that's a pretty good, year in review. If I had to take 2 takeaways, it would be definitely recalibrate your refractometer frequently. And if you're going to quarantine all the way. Every hermit crab, every coral, everything that comes into your tank, because otherwise there's basically no point. But, thank you for tuning in. Sorry this was a long video, and I'll post another one here pretty soon once I get everything set up on the new clown harem and run you through how that setup's gonna go. And, y'all take it easy.